Hey folks, welcome to verifiedinvesting.com. My name is Gareth Soloway here with another deep dive. This time we're going to be discussing Ethereum, Solana, and XRP from a purely technical analysis standpoint. And obviously what this does is it gets the emotion out of trading and investing and looks specifically at the probabilities, which is what the charts tell us. So let's dive right in here, taking a look at the Solana chart. As we jump into that chart, what is it showing us? We can clearly see ETH again moving up over this weekend. So again, we're getting a little bit of a pop here on a Sunday. Now that really doesn't mean a lot because the volume generally is lighter. So there's more retail versus institutional when you see this. But again, I will say this, I'm intrigued by ETH, thinking that it still has some upside to go. Now, again, that may seem crazy to a lot of you, but believe it or not, the chart on ETH, if we look at this trend line, number one, this trend line's been holding. So as long as this trend line holds on ETH, and look at how many times it's hit, right? You have 1, 2, almost 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 times, and it keeps holding. And the question is, at some point, do you get to a level where it's held even after X amount of hits? Does it then start to favor the upside? And the easy way to do this, folks, is again, you don't have to really be a rocket scientist. And what I mean by that is the trend line gives you everything you need to know, meaning that you can stay bullish on ETH as long as we don't confirm below that trend line, right? So here's a very obvious trend line. You can see it, a blind person could basically see this, right? This trend line. So essentially, as long as price stays above, then you favor the upside in the chart. If we were to break this and confirm below, okay, now you have some issues where I actually think ETH would probably trade down into this range around 2,800, 2,750, somewhere in that vicinity. But it's very clear. The line in the sand is holding. ETH is holding the line. Now, having said that, what is the favored move? Well, if we zoom out on our chart, we have a very crystal clear double top. November 21, 2021 to our recent high right here. And that again would be considered what we call in technical analysis a double top. That is your resistance. All right. So again, if you're looking at upside, how much upside do you have? Currently, we're trading just below 4,100. You technically have another $700 and change of upside before you slam into a resistance line. Now, listen, along the way, will there be minor resistance points? And the answer is yes. For instance, I would just like to point out right here, right? You have these lows and then drag it out, and you can clearly see that you had this high, which got rejected. So, I mean, there are minor levels along the way, but in essence, what we're forming here is what we call a flat top wedge pattern. And believe it or not, as long as this holds, you remain bullish for an actual breakout. So not just to here. I mean, I think, again, you have to think that there's going to be a little stall and maybe a little check back, right? So oftentimes charts are very rarely just going to blast right through. What instead they like to do is they like to come up and then they see a little bit of profit taking and then they break to the upside. And I actually still am kind of on that angle, meaning that I still think, again, as long as we hold this trend line, ETH favors the upside and even a potential breakout north of 5,000. Pretty cool stuff. All right, let's check in on XRP. XRP, a fantastic chart here. Look at how this zone, going back to this level in May of 2025, we broke out above it, and then we started to come back. We bounced. We came back. We bounced. We came back, bounced, back, bounced, and finally, on the crypto crash a few Fridays ago, we collapsed down. Look at where XRP stopped. I mean, again, you think that crash was just arbitrary, but price literally stopped on a dime right at this trend line of support, which matches your levels here going back. That's pretty darn cool. So what this does is it gives us a base point, right? Is that, number one, if we ever come back down here, you buy it until it proves otherwise. So that's the buy level there at 175, 176. Now, on the negative side, ETH is back into this zone here, right? So we are back into resistance, right? Where price is right into a very pivotal level on XRP. Now, if XRP can break through this, you have another level of resistance. So let's discuss the price points. So we're currently kissing the underbelly at around $2.66 of resistance. It lasts to about 271. So there's about a 5-cent range of resistance. If we can break through that, and we should know sooner than later, right, in the next couple days, because we're right up into that level. If we can break through there, then you start retesting this downsloping trend line to see if we can break through. It's currently hovering around 290, give or take. And so, it's interesting because the chart on ETH, if we flip back to that, this is actually holding the big level of support, right? It held support. It held this zone over here even, which was good support. This chart is looking good. XRP, while it doesn't look horrible, it's got more work to do. It has to break through here, then it also has to break through here, and that's just to make another move to attempt to get back to its all-time highs. Versus ETH, if we go back to this, it basically doesn't have much in the way of resistance up here. I mean, there's some chop, but for the most part, it doesn't have the significant resistance points like you do on the XRP chart right here, or this down sloping trend line, which is obviously so important. All right, so again, not to say XRP isn't setting up. In all fairness, if ETH goes, then probably XRP does rally as well. If I just had to pick one of the two charts, though, let's say someone said to me, you got to be long on ETH or XRP, I'm taking ETH right now. Just the nature of the chart. The chart is a better chart overall. And again, what's beautiful about the chart on ETH is it has such a defined resistance line, or I should say support line, where if we confirm below, you stop out for a couple $100 loss, right? I mean, it's very minimal. Now on the XRP chart, it's not so easy. If you go long here, I mean, where's your stop out? I mean, here it could just to get back down here, it could fall down to 229. But this is really, I mean, you wouldn't want to see a break here, but look at how far away, like how much risk are you taking on there? And this is where you get into risk reward, right? Where we look at this and we say, wow, 33% risk on that. If it dumps out again, that's a pretty hefty risk amount for any trade. Now, looking at Solana is kind of a mix. I know this is weird, but it's like, the porridge is hot, cold, and then there's just right? So the hot porridge, which is actually in this case the good one, like the hot trade, ETH. Then you have the cold trade, XRP. Then you have the one that's kind of lukewarm. That's Solana right now, or SOL. And what I mean by that is, again, you can see it's holding its longer term trend. So you have a very tight stop, maybe not quite as tight as XRP, but as Solana, Ethereum, but you still have a very tight level right here at around 180 to 179. Okay. Now, the difference maker here is that not only do you have to rally up here to test resistance, but then to get to its all-time highs, you're going to have to bust through this. And so this would be one where I think it can rally up to this level, but once it gets here, this is going to be problematic because it's also a double top, right? You also have a short-term double top. And so this is going to take a lot more energy to push all the way up to this high up here around 300 on Solana versus, again, if we compare it to ETH basically just getting back to this trend line gets you back to essentially your double top all-time high, right? I mean, it just gets you all the way back there. And so this is a much lower ask or lower reach to get ETH to all-time highs and even make new all-time highs versus Solana, which I still think this favors the upside on this chart here on Solana, but the problem is it's going to get trouble right around this 250 to 245 level, and we'll have to watch and see if it breaks through. But the nice thing about both ETH and Solana is that both of them have very defined trend lines where if we confirm below, you cut and run, and you basically have a defined level that says, okay, it didn't work out, and that's just the nature of the beast, and you just got to throw in the towel there and say, okay, now you break and confirm below here. It's going here, and maybe even down to there. So again, very interesting because, like I said, ETH looks the best. Solana looks second best. Like there's some good upside. And then if we look at XRP is actually into resistance and has limited upside here. I mean, again, you're really only talking from current price 265 to 290. I mean, again, that's just a little over 10% upside versus if you look at some of these other ones here, if we look at Solana, right? What's your Solana upside here? So your downside, remember, we just talked about the downside risk on XRP was like 30%. Here, your downside risk's 10 to 11%. Your upside reward's 23%. That's a much better risk reward assessment. And then on ETH, what's beautiful about ETH here, right? If we look at this, what's your risk versus reward? Your risk is basically 7%. Your reward is 20%. And I even talked about how double tops, a third hit oftentimes causes a breakout. You could be looking at much more upside. So again, my goal here, folks, as I always say, is to give you guys exactly what I'm thinking as a 26 plus year trader that's focused on technical analysis my whole career, where I've traded through the dot-com bust, I've traded through the financial crisis, the COVID collapse, the bull markets, the bear markets, all of it. And I've learned lots of hard lessons along the way. And that's where I can bring you the knowledge where it's like, okay, listen, if I can help people, maybe just listen, we're all going to make mistakes. And I want to be clear on this. I'm not perfect still. I'm far from perfect on my trading. No one's going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. Don't even think that you will be, because it'll make you hold on to things longer than you should, which I've done in my career many, many times. The idea is if I can help you avoid one or two mistakes that would have cost you X amount of dollars, that's always a positive, right? A little bit of knowledge goes a long way in this game, because you can compound that money saved over years and years and years, and it actually can turn into be a massive amount of money. As always, folks, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, if you would share this video with friends and family, it would mean the world to me. That's all I ask. I'll continue to share my knowledge. Just do me a favor and try to spread the word. Have a good one. Take care.